Jazz harmony is a sore subject for guitarists, not because they're untalented and dumb, but because they're untalented, dumb, and ill-informed. Today we're going to fix the ill-informed part. Let's go. I'm just busting some balls, guys. Not really, but let's start. So today what we're going to learn are all these cool in-between harmonies you can play over a 2-5-1. We're going to start with 3 basic chords. D minor for a whole measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. G7 for a whole measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And C major for 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our basic unit of time that we're dealing with, this 4-measure harmonic phrase. And what we're going to do now is change the bass line from whole notes to half notes. Now, the bass doesn't have to move, but it should move if you're playing jazz. It helps the sound be linear. Now, eventually, you're going to play walking bass, 4 notes per measure. That kind of sound. But before you can walk, you need to fucking crawl. So let's play some half notes. You gotta have your cut time shit together before you can even think about walking. So the most basic way that you hear people play cut time in records is root fifth. Root fifth. That's in every kind of music, Johnny Cash, country, pop, anybody. So that kind of sound. So I'm thinking D minor over A. Now, here's the way I want you to think. When you're playing this bass line, don't think about that A as the 5th of that D minor. Think about it from the perspective of the chord that didn't happen yet, meaning I am approaching that G7 from a whole step up, not I am playing the 5th of that D minor. So I'm thinking D minor, 2, and now that A is the neighbor of the G. That's the key in the thinking. Then when I get to C, that D is the neighbor of the C. Neighbor means the next diatonic note in the scale. Okay, if I can do that, then I can start attaching harmony to it. And if I understand scales, I start having options. So this will be the first topic that we deal with. What kind of A chords do I have that move to G? What kind of D chords do I have that move to C? And what kind of E chords do I have that move to D? Meaning I'm playing that 2-5-1 harmony on beats 1 and 2, but then I'm coming up with a different harmony for beats 3 and 4 that's going to lead me to where I'm going. So a lot of that Barry Harris shit has to do with using diminished a whole step up from where you're going. That's one way to think about it. So D minor, A diminished to lead to G, D diminished to lead to C, E diminished to lead back to D minor. I got you under my skin. Do da da, da 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 da. Ah, that's pretty cool. Now, that takes you to different scales. That comes out of a couple of scales. The Barry people will say it comes out from the Dingleberry scales, but they also come from harmonic minor and harmonic major. Those are the diatonic scales that the jazz people will not admit exist also. But you have these sounds. So when I'm doing this half note bass line and I'm doing neighbor tones, I can notice that it's all diatonic and just put diatonic chords there. It's not the most interesting sound, but it is pretty good. Meaning I'm going from D minor 7 to A minor 7 to lead to that G7, back to D minor 7 to lead to the C, and then E minor 7 to lead back to the D minor. The reason is that those are the chords from C major that are built off those roots that just use neighbor tones to get to where I'm going. So 6 goes to 5, 2 goes to 1, 3 goes to 2. Those sounds sort of suspend the sound. They use the available and non-available tensions on the chords and then move down to them. Meaning in Mixolydian, if I think about those notes of that A minor, the 2 goes to the 1, the root goes to the flat 7, the 4 goes to the 3, and then that 6 goes to the 5. That kind of sound. Not the most exciting, but pretty cool. Another sound that's way cooler is using inversions to where you have thirds and fifths and sevenths in the bass, and that gives you access to different points in the scale, meaning 2, and then to get to 5, I'm going to use the 4 chord first inversion. To get to 1, I'm going to use 2 minor 6. To get to 2, I'm going to use, let's say, 6 minor second inversion. So I got you under my skin. That was 1 chord, major 7, first inversion. Just as an example. So that's still keeping that neighbor tone motion happening. Now, here's another option. Instead of using neighbor tone motion, now I'm going to use approach note motion, meaning half step below each chord. So 2, approach to 5, approach to 1, approach to 2. Now, if I do that and I add diminished chords, well, that's just that Barry Harris shit or the harmonic minor, harmonic major thing. If you think about it, if I had a neighbor of that G, meaning going a whole step up and I just take it a minor third down, then it's just inverting that diminished chord. So I can always use diminished chords going a half step up into chords, into the 2, into the 5, into the 1. So I'm using C sharp diminished into D minor, F sharp diminished into G, and B diminished into C major. I got you under my skin. I got you deep in the heart of me. Okay, that's a cool sound. Now, with those two, instead of using diminished and diminished, I can do something else that's pretty cool. And you see that a lot in gypsy jazz, and you see that a lot in a lot of standards. I can use a half diminished sound to go up a half step and a minor 6 down to go down a whole step into a chord. Meaning, if I'm moving to G minor 6, I'm going to use either A minor 6 to get down or F sharp minor 7 flat 5, half diminished to go a half step up. And I can do that to each one of those chords. Meaning, why can I do that? Well, that B minor 7 flat 5 is a basic substitution for G7. It just gives me a rootless G dominant chord. That C sharp minor 7 flat 5 moving to D minor really comes from D melodic minor. The sound is A Mixolydian flat 6. You hear that in All of Me, right? You're at the end. You took the part that once was my heart. That sound. That's A7, flat 6, natural 9. So that sound could be substituted for that C sharp minor 7 flat 5 or E minor 6. Same notes, right? Be do do dee be do 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 wee boo dee do 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 do. Cool. So that's another sound. Now here's how I use it to get into every chord of that 2-5-1. So I'm using just minor 6 chords, a whole step up from each chord I'm going to approach it. But it's creating that same bass line. Now, if that works, minor 6 chords and minor 7 flat 5s are just inversions of each other. But if I grab a minor 7 flat 5, it's just going to be a half step below where I'm going. different sound. All right. Now here's a different sound that is going to be leading to the chords with a half step going down. So D, G sharp to G, D flat to C. That's the sound you really hear in a lot of walking bass line. So that sound comes from either Lydian dominant or half-whole diminished, depending on what tensions you put on top. But the bass line is the same bass line. So if you see this D minor, A flat 7 to G7, D flat 7 to C major, E flat 7 to D minor, that's sub fives for each one of these dominants, meaning D minor, instead of a D7, I'm using A flat, tritone substitution, going to G7. Instead of G7 to lead to C, I'm using D flat 7. And then instead of A7 to lead to D minor, I'm using E flat 7. So I'm just thinking about chromatically going a half step above the target, right? And putting a dominant on it. If I put a natural 9 on it, it's going to give me the sound of Lydian dominant, of melodic minor. So I have this. I got you under my skin. I got you deep in the heart of me. That kind of sound. So that's one way to do it. The other way is putting a sharp 9 on it, and that's going to come from diminished. It's going to be a little harsh, but let's check out the sound. So diminished doesn't lead well to minor chords. So the 2 minor, it's not a good choice, but you got to confront what it gives you. But I totally would use it going to the 1 chord, to di-di. It's written into a Django tune. Right? So that's a good thing. That's a good sound, but just thinking about that sharp 9 built a half step away from the target. Now, here's a super interesting idea. If I have this sound that allows me to lead down a half step, meaning D flat 7 is leading me down to C, well, that D flat 7 can be inverted in the third inversion to have its flatted 7th in the bass. Meaning I can put B in the bass and grab it like this. If this is a D flat triad, here's B in the bass. But now, thinking about the bass line, I could just use it to tonicize, meaning to go up a half step. So I can think about this as a sound that moves up a half step to where I'm going. So I can use third inversion dominant chords from a half step below, meaning D minor, third inversion A flat to the G, third inversion D flat to the C, third inversion E flat to the D minor. So I got you under my skin. That's a nice sound, right? That's pretty dope. Now from that same point, I can use altered sounds, meaning from leading down from the half step. So if I'm trying to, let's say, move to C, come up with a substitution for that G7, G altered has these notes. It's the notes of A flat melodic minor. If I'm asking myself what harmony lives on the B note in A flat melodic minor, it's major 7 sharp 5. Why? Well, the 1 chord is minor major 7, 2 chord is minor 7, 3 chord major 7 sharp 5, 4 chord that same one we just grabbed, the Lydian dominant. That 5 chord is dominant, 6 chord is minor 7 flat 5, 7 chord is minor 7 flat 5. But that 3 chord, well, that if you just use that sound a half step below where you're going, it's always going to lead you in the same way. Meaning this leads to D minors. I'm just thinking a half step below where I'm going. I can use it to lead. To G7, to C. So I'm using this. I got you under my skin. Modern, right? Just a different inversion, a different substitution from that scale. It's the same sound as Lydian dominant, just from a different bass point, but I can use it to lead now. A little bit out, but pretty cool. So another super cool sound that comes from the diminished scale, from half-whole diminished, is diminished major 7. Now you can use that leading a half step into a chord or a whole step above a chord leading down. So if I'm trying to get to G7, I'm going to use A or F sharp. Now a good way to think about that is just a chromatic triad down with a bass line that descends by a whole step, meaning this is an A flat triad with an A bass going to a G. So D minor. Now as I go to C, I'm using E flat triad with D in the bass, going to a C chord, right? And going to a D minor, that E major 7 diminished chord, diminished major 7. So I got you under my skin. Da-da-da. Now, if I can do that, I can also use it from a half step below, because it's just inverting in the scale. Anything exists in major thirds, right? So I got do-da-da, ba-da-da-da, do-da-da, da-da-da-da. Now, we talked about having the chromatic half step down into the target being a dominant sharp 9 coming from half-whole diminished. So now you have two more sounds to play around with from that same tonality. Meaning if I'm trying to move to C major 7, half step down I can use major 7 diminished chord or diminished major 7. Whole step up, it's just the inversion of that. And half step away, I have that sound. I can use that into any chord. Meaning if I have a walking bass line where I have 4 beats with 4 chords to lead to G, I can use the D minor and then 3 of those diminished chords. So I can go 2 minor, diminished major 7, half step below the 5, whole step above, Hendrix chord, then the 5 chord, right, on the beat. Meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? It's pretty cool. And leading to the 2 chords. Right? So it's a nice sound. Another one that is super cool, and the last one we'll talk about today, is using modal interchange chords. So modal interchange chords are kind of easy to conceptualize on a 2-5-1, because if you're just using a half step up major 7 Lydian, it sounds super cool and it all works out to be modal interchange from different scales, but then you can invert it a minor third down and get Dorian sound. Sounds like a lot and like a really complicated concept, but it's actually really simple visually, meaning D minor going to an A flat root, but I'm going to play A flat major 7 into that G7, D flat major 7 into that C, and then E flat major 7 into the D minor. Right? So I got you under my skin. Now, if I have A flat major 7, Lydian, going to like G mixolydian, an inversion of that chord, almost the same sound as F minor Dorian. So now I can use whole step down from the chords, Dorian sounds. Super nice sound. All right, so now you have become a little more informed about how to attach harmonies to half-time bass and where those harmonies come from in a way that's applicable to tunes and will work. If you guys dig this content, click that link below and go to our Patreon and sign up. If you leave a comment below, you will have a chance to win a free month on our Patreon, which is the best Patreon in the history of this planet and all planets for that matter. We have scoured the galaxy and found out that our Patreon is in fact the best Patreon ever in any galaxy, any constellation. Also, just subscribe, man. Tell your grandma about the channel. Grandmas love jazz. Leave comments. Check out the merch. We have merch now, and we'll see you next time.